If you're looking to reach the top ranks, you're going to need a solid champion pool. I'll not only be showing you which champs are great for upping your game, but also how to construct that perfect pool that will take you all the way to Diamond. But why is your champion pool so important? Well, to put it simply, when you play a game of League, it's like you're playing two separate games that get merged into one. Firstly, you're playing the game of piloting your champion, which consists of things like using your abilities and pulling off cool combos. And secondly, you're actually playing League of Legends. What this means is, if you play a different champion or role every game, then you never get to really play League of Legends. All you're doing is getting good at one champion, then moving on to the next, so you never get better. But if I'm honest, I don't really blame you if you do this, because who wants to play League? So that's why having a small champ pool is important. But how small am I talking here? The general rule of thumb that you should be following is the smaller it is, the better it is. If only that applied to everything, am I right, guys? Of course, this would mean that the most ideal scenario is that you become a one-trick, and while that is true, it isn't that simple. If the champ you decide to main doesn't fit into many team comps or gets countered by almost everything, you're going to need another one in your pool to balance out those weaknesses. Also, if you're the type of person that thinks one-tricking sounds boring, or if you don't want to be seen as a waste of oxygen like I am, then you can add a couple more champs to your pool, although beware this will make your climb take much longer. So it's not like one-tricking is necessary to climb, it's just the ideal because it's the least time consuming. So how do you go about picking out the champs for your pool? Well, to be quite honest, if you put your mind to it, you can climb with any champ in the game, but when it comes to improvement, some are better to play than others. And to determine which ones are the best to play if you're looking to improve, there are a few characteristics that you can look at. So, to get started with these characteristics, more than anything, if you're looking for a champ that's going to help you improve, then you need to pick something you find fun. I know it sounds cheesy, but a lot of people get so caught up in the idea of climbing up the ranks and improving, that they forget the reason they even started playing in the first place, which I'm guessing for most people is probably just to enjoy themselves. Now you could listen to LS and play 1,000 Annie games so you can reach Diamond and then end up hating yourself, or here's an idea, just don't. The absolute last thing you want is to get burnt out with League by playing a champ you hate, because then not only can you not improve, but you won't even want to play the game anymore. On the contrary, if you're playing a champ that you enjoy, then it's going to be much easier to crank out loads of games and improve quickly. Just think about which of these two things you'd rather be doing. The next characteristic that makes a champ good for improvement is a strong early game. The longer a solo queue game lasts, the more you have to rely on your monkey-brained teammates to do their jobs. And obviously, we really don't want to do that, so you should try and close out games as quickly as you possibly can. Therefore, you should try to play champions that can gain leads independently and spread them around the map. This usually means good kill potential in lane as well as good roaming ability. If you're a jungler, then good duelists with strong early ganks are your best bet. At the same time, try to ensure that you don't pick a champ that is strong early but completely useless in the late game. A lot of games will get to the late stages no matter what you do, especially in the lower ranks. You don't want to be completely useless in those games, so keep that in mind too. The final characteristic to consider when deciding which champ to pick is their difficulty. Now a lot of coaches will suggest that you play champions like Malphite and Annie to improve because they're easy and they allow you to work on your fundamentals, but I actually partly disagree with this, and let me explain why. So in general, I think there are two main ways for you to approach getting better at League. The first approach you can take is playing mechanically simple champions while you focus on improving your fundamentals. The advantage of this approach is that literally anyone can start doing it and make it to at least high plat, or maybe even low diamond if they put in enough games. This is the approach that most coaches suggest that I was talking about a second ago, and the reason I disagree with it is because of what happens when you do eventually reach that point where you're high plat / low diamond. And what happens is, you get stuck. It's really difficult to break through high platinum with this approach, since the champs that you've been playing are simple and don't promote playmaking. Because of this, you end up hitting a wall and improving becomes insanely difficult. If you do decide to go with this approach, you will inevitably reach this point, and when you do, my suggestion would be to switch your champ pool and playstyle to a more snowbally playmaking oriented one. At first you'll probably drop down quite a few ranks, but it pays off really well in the long run since you'll be able to climb through D4 pretty easily. The other approach you can take to climb is skipping the first step of that process and playing the mechanical playmaking hard to play champs from the start. The main advantage to this approach is that it can potentially be quicker, and it means you'll never have to shift your playstyle when you reach a certain rank. On the flip side, learning your fundamentals while playing these kinds of champs is way harder, and there aren't many people that can make it work. You'll be much more likely to get stuck in the lower ranks if you aren't extremely talented when it comes to learning new things, so proceed at your own risk. To summarise this section, whether you decide to approach climbing by picking a difficult or easy champ doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but they each have their own pros and cons, so decide based on what I've just said. If you want my personal recommendation, I'd say go with the first approach, since it's actually the one I took. I was gold 4 at the beginning of season 9 and I was able to climb all the way up to plat 1 by spamming Orianna and focusing on my fundamentals. Obviously I ended up getting stuck at plat 1, so in season 10 I started playing Zoe instead, and after shifting my playstyle I ended up reaching Masters. Most coaches probably would have just told me to keep playing Orianna, but I really don't think that's the play. Maybe that's just me though. All the characteristics I've just spoken about are pretty much equally important, so try to pick a champion that fits all of them. Here are some of my personal recommendations, but again you can climb with any champion in the game, so consider the characteristics I've just spoken about and try to make your own decision. In a bit.